Hi everyone, basically I wanted to do a quick video today about recovery and what recovery is and transferring our eating disorder to something else, because I know that could be quite a problem. Sorry I've been away. Once again, I don't have the internet because I live in the middle of the sticks and no one wants to give me internet, so at the moment I'm back at my family's, hence the messy room. So yeah, what is recovery? What does recovery mean to you? Basically, recovery to me is being completely free of my symptoms and being completely free of all my thoughts and behaviours and being able to function in society and in myself. Recovery for me is taking a grip of who I am and bringing everything, gaining everything that my eating disorder has taken away from me. And that doesn't just mean friends, family, job, it also means who I am. When you've had an eating disorder for quite a while, it can steal your identity and you feel like you're left with this big gaping hole inside you need to fill, and you don't know what to fill it with because you don't know who you are anymore. And you can't just revert back to who you were, because that was the person without an eating disorder and that was a person in the past, basically. So we change throughout time, everyone does, and so for me it's about gaining identity back in myself and being confident in myself as a person. So yeah, I've been doing my PhD research, which is based on mental health within the workplace, and I spoke to a really interesting gentleman yesterday who spoke to me about recovery, and he has this book in here called Making Recovery a Reality. And I just thought it was very, very interesting. And it says here, defining recovery is quite a contested term. However, in a nutshell, it is a deeply personal, unique process of changing one's attitudes, values, feelings, goals, skills and roles. It is a way of living a satisfying, hopeful and contributing life, even when with the limitations caused by illness. Recovery involves the development of new meaning and purpose in one's life as one grows beyond the catastrophic effects of mental illness. And it says here, I've taken ownership of my illness. I take responsibility for what I do and do not do. I don't let it control me. It's not the whole of my life. It's just a part of my life now. Can you fully recover from eating disorder? Yes, you bloody well can. I've had my eating disorder since I was 8. I still believe that you can recover from an eating disorder. Don't let anyone ever tell you you can't. People have, people will, people will continue to do so. It's whether you let it and whether you fully let go. But this isn't so much a video about how we recover. It's more about when we're in recovery, because eating disorders, we can sometimes just transfer that to something else. I'm going to base this on my experience because that's all I really can go by. Basically, for me, I recovered from anorexia, fell into bulimia as a result of my increased food intake and not actually dealing with the core issues. It just transferred into bulimia, which transferred back to anorexia, back to bulimia. And then when I was like, oh my god, I can't keep using my eating disorder or eating disorders as a way of coping and controlling, what can I do? It then went to another form of eating disorder, which is orthorexia. I got so focused on, right, I'm not going to be eating disordered, ironically. I don't want to use anorexia, I don't want to use bulimia, so I got absolutely obsessed with eating healthily, absolutely obsessed with measuring things, getting the right vitamins, getting the right nutrients, getting things from the right groups, and it became completely obsessive, completely life controlling, and it got out of control, and at the end it was just as mentally destroying as anorexia and bulimia. People could do this through packaging lots of things up, measuring it. When they're not actually vomiting, they're not restricting, they are still fighting their eating disorder, but using ways which are perhaps obsessive and aren't actually helpful and beneficial. So also for me, let's go out of the eating disorder frame. For me, it transferred into self-harm. I've got so fixated on not using my eating disorder, I had to take it out on something else. If I didn't, I felt I was going to explode. I had to use something. I could not use anything. And so it went from eating disorders, self-harm, and that isn't an uncommon thing. It's more common than you think for your insecurities, your inability to cope in an appropriate and safe and healthy manner. It just gets thrown around, a mixture of everything, and then you end up with a hell of a lot of different problems on your list. And that isn't the way to recover. You can recover from an eating disorder, but then you fall into something else and you're not completely recovered mentally. So how do we go about doing this? I think it goes with the definition of recovery. Basically, to recover and to stop throwing things around, throwing all these balls around the court of ways to cope and getting a massive basket of different coping techniques which aren't helpful, you need to focus your energy on something else. You need to focus and identify that hole that you are not addressing or your health team are not addressing, because otherwise you would not be using these other coping techniques. So number one, I want you to, if this is happening, look at your life. Is it situational? Is there something situational that you can safely and manageably take out of your life? This could be you're not happy in your job, I don't know, you don't like your house, you don't like who you're living with, you're unhappy with a partner, lots of different things, and to go about a way of trying to get out and remove yourself from that situation and fix it, basically. Not run away, but fix that situation. So if this is, obviously it sounds easy, but it's not. And you can get help and support from a hell of a lot of different resources depending on your situation. So talk to your health professional about this. Number two, I want you to actually fully take a step back and look at what you're not addressing. What are your core beliefs that keep coming up? Is it that you think, like for me, I think I'm a bad person? Is it that belief? What is it that you are not addressing? Do you know that there's an experience in your life you haven't gone in depth in recovery? Is it something to do with body image that you really need to focus on? Is it something that you to do with yourself that not only that a health professional can't help you with, but you can help yourself with? For example, this idea of identity. Health professional cannot provide you with an identity, you build it yourself. So I think it's really important for you to look at yourself and see what you can do and what you need to ask and get a health professional involved with. Once again, easier said than done. If you can't, I know a lot of people can't afford healthcare. If that's the case, look on the internet for the certain things which goes around. It could be about anxiety, obsessive compulsiveness, about all these different things. There's a book on everything, absolutely everything. So look and see what resources you can get over the internet, because the internet is a very, very useful tool when used appropriately. So use the internet as a way of trying to find another resource which you can go to, voluntary organisations you can go to that you can call, support groups that you can attend, things like that. So that if you can afford healthcare, or you live in a country where healthcare is provided for you, like the UK, go to a doctor and push for it. Or if you're going to healthcare already, talk to them about this issue that you're finding that there's a block which is stopping you from reaching that fullness of recovery, that full freedom from a mental illness. A lot of the time, though, we can realise that mental and physical illness go hand in hand sometimes. If you're suffering from a very deliberating physical illness, it can sort of impede our mental health. And I think the best way of doing that is trying to gain a positive attitude towards life and recovery over your physical and mental illness, and using, again, the resources that are available to you. I just don't want you to feel alone, that sometimes I feel I am the child which is completely bonkers. I am the child, the daughter who is mentally insane. I'm the daughter that's had eating disorders, many types of eating disorders, which has been hospitalised by both. I am the child that has suffered so severely with self-harm, I've had to go in hospital. I'm the child that's tried to commit suicide, suffered with manic depression, obsessive compulsive disorder, and I have a massive list of mental illnesses I have been through and suffered from, and it makes me feel very bad and guilty and ashamed. I just want my sort of diagnosis to just be one. I don't want a whole thing, because it just makes me feel even more insane. But that's not the case. That isn't the case. You're not insane. We are not mental. We are self-stigmatizing ourselves. I do not know what my parents think of me about my mental illness and my well-being, but I know exactly what I think about myself, and that is my self-stigmatization, saying that I'm not a good enough person, you're mental, you're insane. All these words that we shouldn't use. We shouldn't use these words. Don't use them against anyone else, and don't use them against them yourself. You are not insane by going like insane as in the stigmatized, discriminative term that we're using. That is not the same. There's so much ignorance around these terms, and there's ignorance of ourselves. We know perfectly well we're not incapable people, that we can't contribute things. I know I can't contribute things. I know I'm a good person, and I shouldn't stigmatize myself for a mental illness. I would not do that with someone with a physical illness. I wouldn't do that with someone with heart disease or cancer or a physical disability. No, I wouldn't go around that at all. And put that prejudice and discrimination on that person and call them such words. But I'd call myself. So stop calling yourself these terms. Stop thinking of yourself in such a negative way. Take a stand and think, right, I have suffered with a mental illness. It has made me stronger, more compassionate, more understanding, and more determined than ever to get life in my hands and run with it, to thrive, to be a person that I want to be, to do all the things that I haven't been able to do. I want to do them, and I'm going to bloody well do them whether I've got a mental illness and I'm mentally insane or not. And that's it. So I think a lot of this comes through speaking out, because if you saw me down the street, you wouldn't think that I had a mental illness. So I'm just a normal person. I'm just an average person like everyone else. Well, average person like everyone else. And you think I'm mental. So, much love to everyone, and I will do a video as soon as I can. Right, bye everyone.